Wilbur Wright was born on April 16, 1867, near Millville, Indiana. He was the middle child in a family of 5 children. His father, Milton Wright, was a bishop in the Church of the United Brethren in Christ. His mother was Susan Catherine Kerner. Orville Wright was born on August 19, 1871, in Dayton, Ohio, USA. The family later moved to Dayton, Ohio. As a child, Wilbur's playmate was his younger brother, Orville Wright. Milton Wright's preaching took him on the road frequently, and he often brought back small toys for his children. In 1878 he brought back a small model helicopter for his boys. Made of cork, bamboo and paper, and powered by a rubber band to twirl its blades, the model was based on a design by the French aeronautical pioneer Alphonse Pénaud. Fascinated by the toy and its mechanics, Wilbur and Orville would develop a lifelong love of aeronautics and flying. Wilbur was a bright and studious child and excelled in school. His personality was outgoing and robust, and he made plans to attend Yale University after high school. In the winter of 1885 to 1886, an accident changed the course of Wilbur's life. He was badly injured in an ice hockey game when another player's stick hit him in the face. Though most of his injuries healed, the incident plunged Wilbur into a depression. He did not receive his high school diploma, cancelled plans for college, and retreated to his family's home. Wilbur spent much of this period at home, reading books in his family's library, and caring for his ailing mother, who died in 1889 of tuberculosis. Their interest in flight was sparked by childhood experiences with kites and bicycles. Both brothers had a strong mechanical aptitude, and they operated a bicycle sales and repair shop in Dayton. In 1892, Wilbur and Orville opened a bike shop, fixing bicycles and selling their own design. In 1894, Wilbur and Orville were caught up in the bicycling craze that swept the nation. To augment the income from their printing trade, they began repairing and selling bicycles. This soon grew into a full-time business, and in 1896 they began to manufacture their own bikes. The Wright Cycle Company returned a handsome profit, but the brothers cared little about the money. They were already thinking about trading their wheels for wings. Wilbur was not satisfied with manufactured and sold bicycles. With his brother and business partner, Orville, he began working on an early interest of theirs, flight. Before their first successful flight on December 17, 1903, at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the brothers spent years working on the development of the airplane. The brothers began by searching for information on aeronautics from their local library. Once they had gone through all of the locally available information, Wilbur Wright wrote to the Smithsonian Institution on May 30, 1899, asking for Smithsonian publications on aeronautics and suggestions for other readings. At this time, Samuel P. Langley was secretary of the Smithsonian, and he had done extensive aeronautical research. He, too, was working on building the first flying machine. Secretary Langley was devastated when the Wright brothers beat him with their first successful flight in 1903. The Wright brothers closely followed the research of German aviator, Otto Lilienthal. When Lilienthal died in a glider crash, the brothers decided to start their own experiments with flight. Determined to develop their own successful design, Wilbur and Orville headed to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, known for its strong winds. Wilbur and Orville set to work trying to figure out how to design wings for flight. They observed that birds angled their wings for balance and control, and tried to emulate this, developing a concept called wing warping. When they added a movable rudder, the Wright brothers found they had the magic formula. Before we continue our story, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Don't forget also to turn on the notification bell to be updated in our every uploads. They made their first test flights at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, on the shores of the Atlantic, where the strong winds helped to launch the gliders and the soft sands helped to cushion the fall when they crashed. Their first 2 gliders, flown in 1900 and 1901, failed to perform as the Wrights had hoped. The gliders did not provide enough lift, nor were they fully controllable. So during the winter of 1901–1902, Wilbur and Orville built a wind tunnel and conducted experiments to determine the best wing shape for an airplane. This enabled them to build a glider with sufficient lift, and concentrate on the problem of control. Toward the end of the 1902 flying season, their third glider became the first fully controllable aircraft, with roll, pitch, and yaw controls. During the winter of 1902–1903, with the help of their mechanic, Charlie Taylor, the Wrights designed and built a gasoline engine light enough and powerful enough to propel an airplane. They also designed the first true airplane propellers and built a new, powered aircraft. Back in Kitty Hawk, they suddenly found themselves in a race. Samuel P. Langley, secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, had also built a powered aircraft, patterned after a small, unmanned aerodrome he had flown successfully in 1896. To add to their frustrations, the Wrights were delayed by problems with their propeller shafts and the weather, giving Langley time to test his aircraft twice in late 1903. Both attempts failed miserably, however, and Langley left the field to the Wrights. On December 17, 1903, Wilbur and Orville Wright made the first sustained, controlled flights in a powered aircraft. They succeeded in flying the first free, controlled flight of a power-driven, heavier-than-air plane. Wilbur flew their plane for 59 seconds, over a distance of 852 feet, an extraordinary achievement. Back in Dayton, Ohio, the brothers found they had much to do to perfect their invention. While the 1903 Wright Flyer did indeed fly, it was underpowered and difficult to control. They established the world's first test flight facilities at Huffman Prairie, northeast of Dayton, today, the site of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. For 2 years they made flight after flight, fine-tuning the controls, engine, propellers, and configuration of their airplane. At first, they could only fly in a straight line for less than a minute. But by the end of 1905, they were flying figure eights over Huffman Prairie, staying aloft for over half an hour, or until their fuel ran out. The 1905 Wright Flyer was the world's first practical airplane. The Wrights continued to refine their designs and made significant contributions to aeronautics. They introduced the concept of three-axis control, pitch, roll, and yaw, which remains a fundamental principle in aviation today. The Wright brothers soon found that their success was not appreciated by all. Many in the press, as well as fellow flight experts, were reluctant to believe the brothers' claims at all. As a result, Wilbur set out for Europe in 1908, where he hoped he would have more success convincing the public and selling airplanes. In France, Wilbur found a much more receptive audience. He made many public flights and gave rides to officials, journalists and statesmen. In 1909, Orville joined his brother in Europe, as did the younger sister Catherine. The Wrights became huge celebrities there, hosted by royals and heads of state, and constantly featured in the press. The Wrights began to sell their airplanes in Europe, before returning to the United States in 1909. The brothers became wealthy businessmen, filling contracts for airplanes in Europe and the United States. Wilbur and Orville always shared credit for their innovations and maintained a close relationship throughout their lives. Behind the scenes, however, there was a division of labor. With his sharp instincts, Wilbur was the business mind and executive of the operation, serving as president of the Wright Company. As their fame grew, orders for aircraft poured in. The Wrights set up airplane factories and flight schools on both sides of the Atlantic. Unfortunately, once they had demonstrated their aircraft in public, it was easy for others to copy them, and many did. The world seemed no friendlier to Wilbur and Orville. The aircraft business was uncertain and dangerous. Most of the money to be made was in exhibition flying, where the audiences wanted to see death-defying feats or airmanship. The Wrights sent out teams of pilots who had to fly increasingly higher, faster, and more recklessly to satisfy the crowds. Inevitably, the pilots began to die in accidents and the stress began to tell on the Wrights. Additionally, their legal troubles distracted them from what they were best at, invention and innovation. By 1911, Wright aircraft were no longer the best machines flying. Wilbur fell ill on a trip to Boston in April 1912. He was diagnosed with typhoid fever and died on May 30 at his family home in Dayton, Ohio. Milton Wright wrote in his diary, "A short life, full of consequences. An unfailing intellect, imperturbable temper, great self-reliance and as great modesty, seeing the right clearly, pursuing it steadily, he lived and died." Orville spent the last 3 decades of his life serving on boards and committees related to aeronautics, including the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, the predecessor to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. Neither Orville nor Wilbur ever married. On January 30, 1948, Orville died after suffering a second heart attack. He is buried at the Wright family plot in Dayton, Ohio. The Wright brothers' contributions to aviation laid the foundation for the development of modern aircraft. Their successful flight in 1903 is considered one of the most significant technological achievements of the 20th century. Orville and Wilbur Wright are celebrated as pioneers who unlocked the secrets of controlled flight and changed the course of history. And that's the wrap of our story for today. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel, and also please press the notification bell to be updated in our every uploads.